Welcome back, everybody. We're getting really close to the end of season 7. I was going to say season 8, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So we've got some 80s goodness coming up for you. But before we do that, let's jump into our... What do we call those?
Quick cuts.
Quick cuts. Thank you very much. Woo! Okay, I'll let you go first.
Sure. So my quick cut for this week is a 2025 film called The Monkey. The Monkey is a dark comedy horror film directed by Osgood Perkins, adapted from Stephen King's 1980 short story. The narrative follows twin brothers Hal and Bill Shelburne, both portrayed by Theo James, who discovers their father's old toy monkey that triggers a series of gruesome deaths. Attempting to rid themselves of the cursed toy, they dispose of it and grow apart over the years. However, the monkey resurfaces decades later, leading to a new wave of bizarre and violent incidents. The film blends over-the-top gore with dark humor, exploring themes of family trauma and mortality. This received a 78% critic score, but only a 58% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And to be honest, I didn't really dig this one. I found the characters to be kind of unlikable. I think the tone was really not what I was expecting. So I think I went into this expecting something maybe a little more serious, and it was
a little darker,
but then kind of comedic. But then I don't know. It seemed to really focus on just over the top kills. And I don't know. Have you read the short story?
Years and years ago.
Okay.
I don't remember it.
It seems like they probably had to embellish or like build a lot of story out of it that maybe wasn't in the original. And I didn't really enjoy the plot or the characters. Some of the kills were fun. I think maybe if I rewatched this and went into it with a different mentality, just turn your brain off, don't take it seriously, and just enjoy the ride. But something about the tone of it I didn't really like. And other than the fun kills being entertaining enough, the rest of the film I didn't really enjoy. So unfortunately, I don't think I'd recommend The Monkey based on my viewing of it, but you have seen The Monkey as well.
I did, although I think I liked it more than you did. But I also had similar feelings about the tone being inconsistent. It's like, what are you going for here?
Yeah.
Are you going, and this is, we've talked about many times, the challenge with horror-tinged comedy or comedy-tinged horror, however you want to look at it, because it's a very delicate balance to do it well, and very few films that I've seen do it well.
Yeah, and this season, both of us did a quick cut for Heart Eyes, and I think we both felt that it nailed the balance. And in this case, it's hard to identify exactly how, but I feel like it was off. And the fact that it only has a 58% audience rating means it didn't land for a lot of people. But as one of the bigger horror films in the early half of the year, I was hoping for more. So this one was a bit of a letdown, as was Wolfman.
Yeah, that's true. Two big ones to start the beginning of the year, more or less. And my quick cut is also a 2025.
Ooh.
Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. I watched the unrated version, and I know why it was unrated. So this was directed by Scott Chambers. The cast is Megan Pacito as Wendy, Martin Portlook as Peter Pan, Kit Green as Tinkerbell, and Peter D'Souza as Michael. Now, the summary is this. Wendy Darling encounters a twisted Tinkerbell as she tries to rescue her brother, Michael, from the evil clutches of Peter Pan. 5.1. That's reasonable.
That's true.
For this kind of movie.
For what this is, yeah.
45 critics, 71 audience score.
Yeah.
So the kills were pretty gruesome in this one. However, I think this is the same people as Blood and Honey.
It seems like it would be, yeah.
Because there's actually, I think, 3 or 4 they've released this year. There's this one. There's Popeye.
Piglet. There's a Mickey Mouse one. Apparently they're making a Bambi one. Yeah, they're going crazy with the
and they're just
franchise.
Like shooting them out like nobody's business. Anyway, here's I won't give you my opinion. I'll just read this. Continuing the trend of schlocky, puerile remakes, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare guts a beloved character for lowbrow horror that never manages to take flight. I don't really have anything to add to that.
No. I'm halfway through this one.
Oh, you are? Okay.
So
so you know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so I will say this. I actually liked the beginning of this film.
Yeah.
But if you remember, I also liked the beginning of Blood and Honey. I thought it was like an interesting approach.
Yes.
When they had the cartoony kind of sketch things.
Yep.
And then it just goes off the rails after that. And I found this was the same thing. It was like, oh, they had the circus thing and they had a pretty creepy Peter Pan.
The concept of taking a Disney film or a children's story and making it into horror, I think is cool. They're maybe going a little crazy with it, but no, I'm on board for it if it's done well.
Yeah.
This one has some good ideas, I think.
It does. I think this one, I don't know if it's better than Blood and Honey 2, because we both thought that was a step up from Blood and Honey. But this one I think is...
Tinkerbell threw me for a loop at first.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are kind of out there on this one. So watch at your own discretion. Okay, so we're going to jump into our main feature for today, but this is going to harken back to something that Mike and I have talked about earlier in this season when we reviewed Creepshow, because the 80s is a really interesting mix of horror. Not that any decade you couldn't say that about, but the 80s has quite a few of these more like kid horror than most decades I can think of. And there's like The Dark Crystal and Monster Squad and the Labyrinth and a whole bunch of different ones that are more geared. They're not as gruesome. They're not as scary. They're more geared for family viewing.
Yes, for sure.
And so today's feature is one of those. And we're going to be looking at 1984's Gremlins.
What is it?
It's your new pet. Number one, you got to keep him out of bright light. Number two, keep him away from water.
It's incredible.
And probably the most important thing, don't ever feed him after midnight.
Horror? Caper film, comedy, you'll have to find out. So this is an hour and 46. This is PG-13, I think, was the original rating.
I think it's PG, but this film inspired the PG-13 rating, is my understanding. This and Temple of Doom, I think, came out the same year, and they both clearly aren't rated R, but apparently lots of parents complain that it kind of pushed the comfort level of PG. So I think it inspired them to decide that we needed like a middle ground PG-13.
Reasonable. So this is IMDb 7.3, Rotten Tomatoes 86 critics and 78 audience. So just a little bit behind. Directed by Joe Dante. The cast, Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Francis Lee McCain, Judge Reinhold, and Corey Feldman, a rather young Corey Feldman.
Yeah. And did you catch who did the voice of Gizmo?
I did not.
Howie Mandel.
Oh, I did read that somewhere. Yeah.
And I only learned that preparing for this episode, but as a kid, I never knew it was Howie Mandel.
No, me neither.
But I saw an interview of him doing the voice, and it was pretty funny. So yeah, there you go. Howie Mandel, who's Canadian, correct?
He is Canadian.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, interesting. So the summary of this film, a young man inadvertently breaks 3 important rules concerning his new pet and unleashes a horde of malevolently mischievous monsters. Ooh, holy alliteration, on a small town. So just sort of to give some context, here was sort of a critic's consensus. Whether you choose to see it as a statement on consumer culture or simply a special effects heavy popcorn film, Gremlins is a minor classic. So my first question to you is, do you agree with this kind of being lumped in the horror genre? And does it more fit in with what we've described before as kid horror?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I will say as well that unlike almost this entire season, I was coming to these films for the first time. I didn't have that like childhood nostalgia for the films that we watched. However, Gremlins and Gremlins 2 I watched as a kid. So I feel like I'm not coming to this one with that same modern viewer objectivity. I do
So you have
quite a bit of nostalgia for the Gremlins film. So just want to put that up front because I have fond memories of watching Gremlins as a kid. So yeah, I would characterize this as horror, but it's clearly intended. And it was interesting doing the preparation for this episode because clearly apparently when it was originally written by Chris Columbus, it was written very dark as like
yes,
as an all-in horror film. And Spielberg was like, let's like back it off a little bit and make it family friendly. And I think that was maybe the right choice. I think there's something to be said for having horror content and stuff that can be scary for children.
Yeah.
And I think still like you could slide this into the horror genre. But I do think you almost need a special category of kids horror. We talked about this on our 50th episode.
Yes.
So yeah, I do. It's an interesting, like debating whether to show this to my kids. But I have to say I almost enjoyed watching it with them more than I did watching it on my own. Partly because I think it's not necessarily scary if you're an adult.
Yeah.
But seeing kids enjoy it,
yes,
it pushes enough of an envelope for them that they are finding it kind of scary, but you feel mostly comfortable that they're not going to be scarred or they're not going to run into your bedroom at 2 a.m. because they're terrified. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, that is a really great description of, I've had similar things where it's really cool to watch something that you're familiar with and you've seen, and now you see the next generation watch it. That's like, for me, it wasn't a horror, but one of the things is A Christmas Story that my older son and I had watched for years and years at Christmas time, sometime over the holidays. And I enjoyed it, and just watching him get so much enjoyment out of it too is a pretty cool thing. Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I'm interested. I have to think that there would have been some serious differences in the creatures and how they behaved if it was a darker, like full-on horror movie.
Yeah, so the one example I came across, so the scene with the mother in the kitchen where she offs those 3 gremlins, I guess in the original written version of it, they like kill her and decapitate her. So it's like full-on horror.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I think I would give Steven Spielberg credit here because I think what he's created is pretty special. And it sounds like this was very popular when it was released.
It was very popular.
So apparently it's very rare for a film to make more money on its second weekend than its opening weekend. But this one did.
Wow.
So apparently there was enough word of mouth and it made much of a splash that more people went to see it even the second weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't know, had this been a full-on horror film, if it would be remembered in the same way. Like,
True.
I think the thing that makes this film special is maybe the broad audience appeal.
Yeah, I can see that.
But do you feel that it effectively appeals to both adults and children, or does it feel too kiddie to you to enjoy as an adult viewer?
I think it can be enjoyed as an adult, but maybe not subsequent viewings.
Yes.
So the first time, if you're watching it with your kid, I can see that being enjoyable because it not quite as well done as Disney films, but there's a level there for adults that you might, clue in on that kids wouldn't get.
Yeah.
So like any Disney film, although they do bear repeat watchings, this one, watching it again, I haven't seen this for years and years, but I've definitely seen it more than once. It wasn't as good, as the first time, partly because you know what's coming, but partly because it's not as gruesome or scary or anything else as some other films. So yeah, I think it can be enjoyed by kids and adults.
No, I 100% agree. Because I watched it last week by myself and I was like, okay, it's Gremlins, it's fine. But then I watched it this week with my kids and I found myself way more into it. I almost wasn't going to watch it. I'm like, hey, you guys go watch Gremlins.
Right.
But it was fun experiencing it with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say, I think that's why it fits in a kid's horror.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But nice segue, Steven Spielberg, because my first complaint is music.
Wow.
It's suitable. It fits. I just really have something against strings and string pads, and I love classical music. I just don't like the schmaltzy Spielberg.
That's true. There are times. No, what about the main Gremlins theme though?
No, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
So I love that theme. I think that's iconic. So that part of the music I love. But the more manipulative background. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The Gremlins theme is fine. And it's even, quite funny and engaging. But it's just, all the manipulative music that Spielberg
that is very Spielberg.
Yeah.
Spielbergian. Yeah. 100%.
But
it feels manipulative when you're paying attention.
It does, because it's, there's, maybe a minor key or it's, a sad string sound or whatever. But,
and I found the characters to be, I think the main characters are good, but some of the characters are definitely caricatures.
Yes.
Like the Cruella de Vil style
Yes.
character
Yeah.
and like the banker, and like they just are unrealistic. They're cardboard cutout characters.
But it's really interesting to see, like you mentioned, the banker.
Yeah.
And he was, I don't know how many times you've seen 16 Candles, which came out around the same time.
I've only seen that one once.
That was a favorite film of mine for a long time, and I watched it over and over and over again. And the banker is one of the dads in that, the grandparents, sorry, not the dads, the grandparents in that film. And he was a very popular character actor at the time. And of course, Judge Reinhold did a bunch of stuff. Like Phoebe Cates is 80s personified.
Totally.
She was in a lot of things.
Drop Dead Fred.
Yes. And I was thinking of Fast Times at Ridgemount High, which she did an interesting scene in. Did you notice that It's a Wonderful Life was on the TV?
Yes. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I didn't ever, as a kid, make the connection that the pods that the Gremlins turn into are very reminiscent of the pods from Invasion of the Body
it's very
Snatchers,
cool.
and actually show them. So, and we actually reviewed Invasion of the Body Snatchers a few seasons ago.
Yeah, a few seasons ago. I also, there's some things, and I mean, as far, I like to joke about Spielberg, but he is a master filmmaker. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know how much of an influence he had on Joe Dante on this film compared to Tobe Hooper on the other film we looked at. I didn't feel as much Spielberg influence on this one as I did in the Tobe Hooper one.
No. Yeah, it seems like Joe Dante had more control. So he did Piranha and The Howling.
Yeah.
And then The Burbs is one that I love, which this feels tonally very similar. I would also put that into kids horror. So if I were to compare this tonally to The Burbs, there's a lot of consistency there. So I think Joe Dante, but it has Spielberg's
100%
fingerprints on it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, what I was going to say is I loved the lighting of Chinatown as the film starts. It's it almost feels to me like you're kind of going into a fun house or something, like the way they bring you into Chinatown and then like down these steps and into this very crowded, curio kind of shop. That felt really cool to me. Like they were almost bringing you into the story.
Totally.
Now it doesn't last forever, but I think it's a great way to engage you in the beginning of the story.
And the view of the street and stuff with the like Christmas lights.
Yeah.
But it has almost like a painting kind of aesthetic to it.
Yeah. It's almost like a Norman Rockefeller painting.
The father, who's that? Is that Randall Peltz?
Hoyt Axton.
Oh, Hoyt Axton. Yeah. He was really good, I thought.
He is good. He's a country music star.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. He had a very like natural delivery.
Yeah.
I thought his character was quite good. The inventor thing was kind of funny.
Yes. I mean, that's something I really liked about the film is his long-suffering family with all these inventions, whatever, an espresso machine, an orange juice machine. And it felt authentic that, you had this long-suffering wife who's just like, okay, he's really trying hard. I'm going to use his inventions, but they're just a disaster in the kitchen. So that I really liked that. That felt really good to me. I felt that there was, so speaking of sort of nods to other films, I thought that in the science lab, that was almost like Alien, the pods, the birth of that gremlin in there. And the same with the Indiana Jones. Did you notice above the Christmas trees farm, or like the Christmas tree lot?
Yes, where they had the sign.
Yes, it wasn't Indiana Jones, but that was very similar.
It was like a radio ad or something, but it was very, totally. And
so
apparently the set of the town was the same as Back to the Future as well. They reused the same.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
It looks the town square looks the same.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also thought there was one of the Gremlins was doing a break dance at one point, which is very 80s. And I remember that trend, as I was in high school.
The film is interesting because the first half plays it pretty straight and actually feels like a horror film. And then the second half is so zany and over the top. And then the Gremlins are like wearing ridiculous costumes and Christmas caroling and playing cards. And like it descends more into like watching my kids watch it. They were pretty tense and like hiding under blankets and like almost unsure if they're going to stick with it. And then they really loved the second half, which was like more fun.
Yeah. It's almost like parody in the second half.
Totally.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, did you were there any niggles for you or things that you didn't like or caught that you were like, not so sure about that?
So I have one major complaint.
Okay.
So if you are listening to this right now and you have children in the room, I would say stop listening or turn this off or send them away. Do you know what I'm going to speak to?
I do not.
So there's a scene in the film, and so you've been warned. Like, please do not listen to this with young children in the room. I was caught off guard because there is a scene where they ruin the myth around Christmas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that kind of pisses me off for a movie that is
It's made for kids.
Kids.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking. The Santa Claus sort of does this as well with Tim Allen.
Yes.
And I just think that is not your place. And
Yeah.
I was reading online, like some families were super pissed because this seems like a kid's movie. It's a Christmas, Christmas movie you would watch. I just think that's bad. I don't think that should have been done. And I'm almost shocked that someone like Steven Spielberg, who cares about
that does sound
family values and is making a film targeted to make it family friendly, would cross that line. So that's not really a critique of the film itself in terms of filmmaking, but it's a decision that, kind of made me mad, honestly, because I just feel like that's not up to you.
Yeah, interesting. Like that is really interesting because not having little kids, I totally get it, but not having little kids right now, I didn't pick up on that at all. Because I was
interesting.
I was watching it on a different level.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And at least in the Santa Claus, they kind of they make it work, so it kind of rectifies itself. I still think it crosses the line, but in this film, they just kind of go there, and I feel like it was really not appropriate. So yeah, that was the big niggle. Like the thing I walked away from feeling that I wanted to criticize and wanted to bring up was that.
Okay.
So anyways, that's it. You can invite the family back into the room now, but just,
so that was your only,
that was my only niggle.
Only niggle. Okay.
I mean, I will say that as an adult, I did find it as watching a horror movie. Like it wasn't scary. It's pretty goofy.
Yeah.
But I think that was the intent. And so I don't know if I would blame it for that. I think it achieves what it wants to do. Sure. And I feel it really delivers on, like, I think at the time this was a very special film and I have very fond memories of this. I have a lot of nostalgia for this. And I think it delivers on what it's trying to accomplish. Did you have negatives or things that bothered you?
There's only really, in terms of it being on the same level, only one, although there are a couple of minor ones. And they're minor for me, but they fit in with the movie because of the family nature of the movie. Like, I'm not a big fan of happy Disney endings. Right. So but considering what the film is, it fits. I also, I mean, the town parts, it's like a Norman Rockwell painting. Yeah. And this isn't the only film that does this, but like idealizing that small town Christmas and as a modern viewer, it's like, was that ever really a thing? Like, did that ever really exist? I don't think so. I think it's particularly for somebody Steven Spielberg's age, who, if I'm guessing right, probably grew up in the 50s. Right. And there's that idyllic view of small town family
people
life.
Going around Christmas caroling at people's doors. And I don't know if that happens much anymore, but
like that kind of stuff. I'm not criticizing the film for it because, like I say, it fits in. It's just my personal taste. I always cringe at those kind of things. Speaking of cringy, the only thing that I found cringy was the whole Chinatown thing and the wise Chinese elder.
Stereotypical.
It's very stereotype racist kind of almost a caricature. But when you're doing a caricature of a person's ethnicity or the way a certain ethnicity might behave, then I think it spills over into racist as opposed to just caricature. Yep. Now, I think for sensitive people, it would have been racist even at the time, but I think it was just overlooked at the time as something like, oh, this is just, how we roll kind of thing. So that was my only.
I feel like Indiana Jones has some of that as well. Like
100%.
I think Spielberg is somewhat guilty of that. I mean, it was a product at the time to some extent, but in his films, you see it.
Absolutely. And it's actually Asian characters in that one too. Yeah. So it was a bit of a trope. at the time. You've either got the sort of spoiled brat, Chinese boy, little boy, or you have the wise elder or whatever. Like there's some fairly well-worn stereotypes, and especially the old Asian man in this one with the wispy beard and the one eye.
Yeah, totally.
That's super caricature. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I the only other cringy thing, I don't know if this hit you or not, but given, we're in 2025, there was a very obvious difference between Billy and Pete, who was the Corey Feldman. It's like, why,
I was stoked to see Corey Feldman, by the way. I was like,
why is someone Billy's age hanging out with a kid that looks about 9 with Corey Feldman? Like that was, and there's nothing there, but as a modern viewer with modern eyes, it's like, that's kind of cringy. Like if my 9-year-old was hanging out with a 20-year-old or 19-year-old, I'd be like, what possibly do you see in this relationship with a kid that
is he a neighbor or?
It seems like he's a neighbor.
Yeah.
And he probably just comes and hangs out.
I feel like maybe there was more of that in 80s films.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a product of the times or.
Well,
that did not enter my mind at all. Now that you say it, I'm like, yeah, that is a bit strange.
And I do think it was more a product of the times in the sense that there was less suspicion about what your motives were.
Yeah.
Like we had when I was growing up, I was around that age, 10, 11, and we had a neighbor across the street who were younger than my parents, but at least when they first moved in, they didn't have kids. But the husband was very much like a kid. He played street hockey with us. He'd, take us to go get ice cream. And, like as a parent now, I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I would have let my kids hang out with a guy in his 30s.
Do you think though in the 80s, because you didn't have the internet and you didn't have ways to connect with people, and there was like, definitely for me, I grew up in Ontario, but there was a real sense of like neighborhood, that the people I spent time with were the people who were on my street. And I know like something like The Burbs, which you've not seen, but I think some of these Spielbergian 80s films have that kind of romanticized suburban. So I wonder if it's a product of like, if you made a relationship with someone across the street who you connected with and you had something in common, that would be less weird to hang out.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, I mean, that was my situation. We were, I grew up in we call them complexes, but it was a townhouse complex. So there were 68 houses and they were all in a U shape. So they kind of faced in on one another. Yeah. And so that's where there were a lot of kids there, but that's where you would hang out. That's where things happened. And so there was really a sense of community. Like a lot of the kids that were the same age, there was probably a 4 or 5 year age gap where like my brother's 2 years younger. So his friends would hang out with us and maybe a couple of their friends who were maybe a bit younger would hang out. So there was maybe a 3, 4, 5 year age gap.
Billy could have been his babysitter.
Yeah, could have been.
Or maybe they were like childhood friends, but then as they grew older.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know.
Childhood friends, the kid, let's say he was 10, let's just give him, so that's still half his age. Mm-hmm. He would be born when Billy's 10. So who did he hang out with? Like a toddler? So, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Well, it's nice to know you would not have hung out with me because I've been too young and not worthy of your time.
That's
and attention.
That's right.
Oh yeah. Just going back to the Chinese thing. I didn't realize too that Mogwai, did you look up?
I did not.
Mogwai.
Yeah, Mogwai, yeah.
So they just looked at an English-Chinese dictionary. So Mogwai is devil, means devil. Okay. In Mandarin, presumably. So,
okay. There you go. I did not know that. Yeah. The things you learn hanging out with Mike.
Someone so much younger.
Now, do you have anything before we get into spoiler territory?
I don't think so, actually. I think we've kind of talked about all the things I wanted to talk about. No, I think we can head into spoilers.
All right. So.
Oh, actually, maybe one more thing. I was very impressed with the practical effects and the puppetry. Yep. Because apparently it was very elaborate. The puppetry that went into Gizmo, like multiple people and all these switches. Yeah. And there were stories of like they would go to shoot a scene and then Gizmo's ear would break and then they'd have to like stop for 8 hours while they like fixed it. Like it was very, I think it was like $40,000 per puppet.
Holy cow.
So each one of those Gremlins was like very expensive and just, it holds up really well because there's no CG.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the puppetry is amazing. And apparently also they filmed it in the middle of summer, despite being a Christmas film. So Billy was complaining of being like, he had to wear like that jacket and like big sweaters. And he's like, it was so hot. I guess a lot of the snow that you see is actually sand.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, that would suck. As someone who is prone to overheating, I don't
Yeah,
know
me too. And I'm always amazed. I mean, I'm sure maybe they stopped filming and, Pat there. Like when I'm overheating, like I got too many clothes on, I'm getting beads of sweat and stuff. You don't see that on the character. So they must stop them and touch things up or whatever. That I didn't know about the summertime thing. That always makes me think, oh man, that must have been so miserable trying to do a Christmas movie. Yeah, in July.
Oh, and the other thing. So there's that scene outside the bar where the neighbor guy, he's making references to World War II.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, as a kid, I never made that connection. But I guess I looked up that apparently gremlins were like mythological creatures that soldiers talked about if something went wrong, like the RAF, apparently Royal Air Force, when they were flying, if something went wrong with their plane, they would like blame gremlins, which explains in the film why the gremlins don't tend to like attack people, but they tend to mess with people's like messing with the traffic lights or messing with like their vehicles. So I thought that was interesting, the connection, because as a kid, I never made that connection.
Yeah, I don't know if I made it as a kid too, but I just know about like Gremlins in the Machine, kind of like Ghost in the Machine sort of thing. And that's that was a big one for Twilight Zone. It was an original episode, and then they had the episode with, or the movie that was made, Twilight Zone, the movie with John Lithgow, and he sees the gremlin out on the plane's wing, kind of like just pulling wires out of the engine.
Interesting, yeah.
And so it's exactly the same thing, right? So some outside force messing with, and it's usually technology of some sort, an engine or a toaster or whatever. So yeah, I mean there are definitely things that are really well done about this film, and of course all of the film craft is really well done. I wouldn't say any of the performances were standout for me. They were decent enough, but there was nothing over the top like, oh wow, that was so good.
No, I thought the father was pretty good.
Yeah.
But you're right. I agree. And I think because a lot of the characters are caricatures, it's hard to like get that level of performance.
Yeah, 100%. And they're not meant to have a character arc. They're just meant to serve a purpose in the film, right?
Yeah. It's funny too, like just speaking of critiques, like the bar scene. So where she's actually like trying to serve them drinks and stuff. Yeah. These gremlins are like running crazy. Like you think you would just run out of there.
Totally.
Like, I thought it was kind of farcical, the idea that she's actually trying to like serve the customers with all these monsters. But yeah, I think if you're just willing to turn your brain off and just enjoy it, and as a family film.
Yeah, 100%. Just accept it for what it is.
So do you recommend Gremlins?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that idea of a minor classic. Like I don't know that this, in the horror genre anyway, I don't know that this would stand up to like a classic like The Exorcist or The Omen or whatever. But in its subgenre of sort of like family horror, 100%. If you're gonna watch family horror, this has to be on your list.
Agreed. Yeah. But bear in mind what I said earlier. Warning: watching this with young
good point.
You can just fast forward that part.
Yeah, good point.
I would preview it first if that's a concern.
Yeah, for sure.
Spoilers.
Okay.
Right.
Spoilers.
So I just had an upcoming thing spoiled for me.
So, I just want you, the listener, to know that there's going to be a special little section right now, actually, before we get into our spoilers. And I won't spoil it, but you're going to be surprised at this little surprise that we have for you.
I think so.
So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, spoilers.
A few moments later.
All right, so today is a special day in that we have a special guest. This is Evil Emily. Say hi.
Hi.
And this is my daughter. So we thought since we're doing Gremlins, and since Gremlins is family horror or kids horror, then it would make a lot of sense to make a kid come on the podcast and give their thoughts. So how old are you, Emily?
10.
What grade are you in?
Grade 5.
Yeah. And so how many horror movies have you watched?
And no horror movies besides Gremlins and The Burbs. But are they horror movies? Like, do they count?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I think they count, but they're probably more kids horror movies. So yeah, you've seen The Burbs. That was the first one we watched, right?
No, Gremlins was the first one. No. Monster Squad was the first one.
You're right. It was Monster Squad. So we watched Monster Squad, and we watched The Burbs, and then we watched Gremlins.
Yeah.
So as a 10-year-old, did you like Gremlins?
Yes.
And what did you like about it? What was your favorite parts?
My favorite part was the bar scene.
Oh, the bar scene. What did you like about the bar scene?
It was just funny because the gremlins were doing like human things and acting just really weird.
They were acting pretty weird. What else did you like about Gremlins?
I liked the I liked like how like the you could like it was still like sort of it was like scary, but it was also like funny as well. So like some of the parts you could still laugh during it.
Yeah, did you think it was more scary or more funny?
More funny, probably.
More funny, yeah. And were there any parts that made you scared? Did you have nightmares? Anything that you...
No,
No. What was the scariest part of the movie, do you think?
probably the chains.
The chainsaw
scene.
battle at the end?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Any other parts scary? I thought maybe you were scared in the kitchen scene a little bit.
Kitchen. Why?
That's when the gremlins first attack his mother.
That wasn't that scary. I think I just forgot that part from when we first watched it. So I was like, what's going to happen?
Okay. And is there anything you didn't like about the movie?
The kissing.
The kissing.
That's kind of
That was the worst part.
Oh, okay. So if you were to remake the movie, you'd take out the kissing part?
Yes, it's supposed to be a horror movie, not a romantic.
Okay. So if you were to compare it, we've seen Monster Squad, we've seen The Burbs, we've seen Gremlins. So where would you rank Gremlins
I think
compared to the other two?
I might like it second best. I think it goes Burbs, then Gremlins, then Monster Squad.
Okay, nice. So you didn't like the kissing. Your favorite scene was the bar scene.
Yeah.
And you like the crazy, zany antics of the Gremlins.
Yes,
How'd you like Gizmo?
he was cute. I liked him.
Would you want to pet Gizmo?
Yes.
Nice. So this afternoon, actually, we also watched Gremlins 2
Mhm.
because you were keen to watch Gremlins 2. It's always a good sign after watching Gremlins. We even watched that with her younger brother who was 6. He was a bit nervous. But how did you like Gremlins 2?
I think it was good. I think I might have liked it more than I liked Gremlins.
Yeah, that's funny because as a kid, I also like Gremlins 2 better than Gremlins 1.
It's just more funny. Some of the scenes are better, I think.
Yeah. What was your favorite part of Gremlins 2?
I think my favorite part was when they're in the lobby. Just
Oh, when all the Gremlins are in the lobby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So would you recommend Gremlins to other kids in your class?
Yeah.
And what do you think for someone like Rowan's age, someone who's like 5 or 6?
I think that I don't think a 5 or 6-year-old should watch it, but I think if you're like 7 or 8, you could watch it.
7 or 8, okay. But you weren't scared? No nightmares?
No. But I think if you didn't like anything that was scary, I don't think I would recommend it
Okay.
for kids.
And you took a whole page of notes. Was there anything else from your notes that you wanted to talk about besides how much you love the kissing?
I thought that the little kid in the beginning looked like Shorty from Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I actually wondered that as well. And I looked it up. I don't think it's the same character. But it's funny that you mention Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom because...
It's by the same person.
Well, Steven Spielberg, yes, produced this film and also directed that movie. But both of those movies also created the PG-13 rating
Oh, that's cool.
because it was a little too scary for little kids, but not quite enough to be rated R. So, yeah.
I also wondered if Barney was supposed to growl at Gizmo when he first comes out of the box, like when his hands are just on the edge.
Oh, yeah.
And he growls at him, but then the mom of Billy like pulls the dog back. So I was wondering if he was supposed to growl at Gizmo.
Yeah. Because Barney's a dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wondered if they actually hung Barney up on like a string of Christmas lights.
Oh, right. The scene where the gremlins hang him up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're wondering if they actually did that to the dog?
Yes.
I think they did.
And I also wondered if they actually sent a lady sitting on a chair at the window.
Yeah, that was a good scene. Or did you not like that scene?
It was funny, kind of. I liked it. Yeah. Another one was, why was Gizmo like more well behaved than the other gremlins, even though they're like the same creature?
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because originally, when the script was written by Chris Columbus, I believe his name was, he actually wrote Gizmo to be a bad gremlin as well. But Steven Spielberg wanted it to be more family friendly, and so he thought it would be good to have one friendly gremlin so that the audience could have like a gremlin that was likable. So you're right; it doesn't really make any sense because they're all the same critter. But yeah, so that was Steven Spielberg that did that.
I also kind of wondered how old Billy was, because like he looked like a teenager, but he didn't go to school.
Yeah, probably like early 20s, dad's age.
I don't think you're in your early 20s.
No, let's move on to the next topic. Okay. Anything else you want to say about Gremlins, Ems?
I just wanted to make a connection. We were also watching wrestling this morning, and I noticed one of the wrestlers had the same like contact in his eye as the grandfather in it, and he also had tattoos of some of the artifacts in his store.
That's very observant. I did not notice that. And also, actually, what wrestler is in Gremlins 2?
Oh, it's Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan, yeah. So that was a good cameo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Evil Emily.
You're welcome.
If we do more kids horror in the future, we'll have to have you back as a special guest.
Yeah, you guys have to do The Burbs.
The Burbs. I know The Burbs is a good one. I don't think Leatherface Lee has seen The Burbs.
You haven't?
And it's directed by Joe Dante as well, so it's the same director as Gremlins. So, and Gremlins 2 actually had a lot of the same cast members as The Burbs.
I was wondering if the man who has a snowplow run into his house, is he one of the characters?
Yes, he's in The Burbs. And one of the police officers and the guy who's caught on his break smoking was also in The Burbs. So, yeah, same director.
And another scene that I kind of thought was scary was in the lab when the gremlin kills the lab scientist.
In Gremlins 1?
Yeah.
Oh, in the teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a little
You guys were both hiding under blankets, I think, at that part for a little bit.
No, Rowan was, but since I had to take notes, I wasn't.
Oh, okay. You stuck with it?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I think that is it for our segment, but great job, Evil Emily. Thanks for coming on. And maybe they'll release Gremlins 3 sometime. We can go see it in theaters together.
Okay, with Rowan, because you'll probably want to see it.
Yeah, we'll have to bring Rowan too. All right. Back to our regular episode. Yeah, I mean, there's not that much to spoil, I suppose. I was trying to think of, for a horror film, the body count is very low.
Yes.
And there's only, to my knowledge, 1, maybe 2 deaths. And 2 of them are like maybes.
Okay, so you have the science teacher.
Right. So did you think that he was dead?
Yes.
Okay. So he's there under the table with a needle in his butt. I guess it could have been a strong sedative, but
well, I got the impression that they were just getting back at him for running experiments on them.
Yes,
right.
yes.
So I read that as he was a goner, but maybe he was just passed out or whatever. It's hard to say.
Yeah, we don't know for sure. And then when the woman is thrown out the window on the chair, but she could have survived. They just show the chair.
That's true. You don't, and I mean, that's, of course, fits in again with the family friendly kind of thing. There was no, but there were some, at least to my mind, and we talked about this before we got to the episode about the kitchen scene.
Yeah,
for a kid horror, that was pretty gruesome. Like she fucking microwaves one of the thing, they just explode in the microwave.
Yeah, so the gore towards humans is very light.
Yes,
but the gore towards the gremlins is like actually very over the top.
It is.
Like my kids were like, "Whoa!" Like the microwave scene. They laughed at it, but they also were kind of like, "Whoa!" And there was the fountain thing at the end.
Yes.
Really impressive practical effects.
It was really
good
good
makeup, but it was pretty intense.
And even the theater scene, I mean, it's kind of like it's like Inglorious Bastards with the Nazi cinema scene. It's the same thing here where they just light it on fire, and that's going to be all the gremlins. They block the door so they can't get out, and they light the thing on fire.
Yeah. It was interesting what the parent had on, because if those same things were being done to human bodies, I think there'd be like a no-go.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like, well, they're just creatures, and it's a little bit cartoony. But it is still kind of gruesome. And you know sticking something in the microwave and showing it like heat up and explode is pretty intense still.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. I was more interested in watching my kids' reactions to those things.
Yeah.
And they definitely caught their attention. I think it made an impact, but I don't think it was traumatizing.
But I can see parents at the time, because of course since then there's been a lot, worse than that. But I can see parents at the time going, okay, that's really pushing up against the boundary of not just good taste, but something that kids could handle.
And I'm guessing that's where the PG-13 comes from.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think they had to do that so at least parents would say, give their head a shake. It wasn't like an E for everyone kind of thing.
Funny that this year we also watched Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom,
really?
which is the other film that pushed us into that PG-13. And there's that scene where he like reaches in and rips his
just going to say that. Yeah.
Like that's arguably not PG, you know?
I mean, when did that, I think wasn't that like 82 or something? Was it a little bit before that, or do you have a date?
I seem to recall that it was the same year as Gremlins, although it could be incorrect. The first one too, Raiders of the Lost Ark, with the face melting at the end is also very extreme. Because for a PG rating.
I was just trying to think. I was not 18 when I saw the second Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, same.
So I would have been 18 in 84.
Okay.
It had to come out earlier.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I could be totally wrong. I might just be.
Well, Temple of Doom was maybe 84, but Raiders would have come out before.
Oh,
then?
for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think Raiders, that was one of my first films that my parents let me go to the movies on my own.
Oh, cool.
They just dropped me off, and it was a birthday thing, just me and one friend. And that's what the movie we went to.
That would have been a good one to see in
theaters.
theaters.
It was really good to see in theaters.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I had exactly the same thing, like the science teacher, the kitchen, the old lady in the chair.
Yeah.
And the theater blowing up. I mean, there isn't much to spoil in terms of plot, because they kind of like they give it away right at the beginning. Okay, here's this thing, but when there's three rules, the rules are going to be broken, and chaos is going to ensue.
There was one funny story with Zach Galligan or whatever, who's the actor for Billy. So at the end, when he kills is it not Spike? Is it Spike? The main gremlin.
Yeah.
Anyways. He shot the scene where he like dove over and like did this big stunt himself, and he pulled the drape, and that killed the final gremlin. But then after that, they did all the filming with the gremlins, and they put Gizmo as actually the one who, and I guess he was kind of pissed. He's like, what? I thought like I was the one who took it. And they're like, no, sorry. The film's called Gremlins. So Gizmo gets the final kill. And I thought that was kind of funny, because originally he thought that he was the one who took down Spike.
That sounds right. But those kind of details are sometimes lost on me. So
yeah. Anyways. Yeah. So no, I mean, it's family friendly that none of the main characters die.
Yeah.
And my kids were asking before, like my youngest was like, does anyone die? Like, do any main people die? Like was something he was really concerned about. So I think for the most part, other than my big complaint in the first half of the episode, Spielberg struck the correct balance.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's edgy enough that if you're a younger person, it's special and it does feel edgy, but it doesn't really cross any lines.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it's traumatizing.
No, I mean, I think depending on how sensitive a child you are,
for sure,
there are some scenes that could be a little bit scary for you. But in terms of like an overall film, I don't think there's anything really too far off that would traumatize kids or give them nightmares for weeks. Unlike The Exorcist, which I saw at 12.
Oh wow! And we did watch Gremlins 2 as a family this afternoon. Yeah. And it's just way more all in on the comedy. Like it's over the top, but it's not scary.
Is that Joe Dante as well?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if he did the sequel.
Same
or not.
cast, same like it.
Oh, they did. Okay, that's good.
It's a true sequel, and it's good. Again, some of the kills of the Gremlins are pretty over the top. Like there's one where they put one through a paper shredder, and it's like goop flying
Sorry.
everywhere.
Oh,
Like,
that's nasty.
My kids are like, wow. But they do some fun things with it. But it's just ridiculous. But it's a fun, again, good family film. And as a kid, I remember actually liking the second one more because it was more funny.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one was a little more serious.
So how many of those kind of family horror, like kid horror things have you seen?
With my kids?
Yeah.
Yep. So Gremlins 1, Gremlins 2, Monster Squad.
Yep.
So for me, I think Monster Squad was the first kids horror that I had watched as a kid.
Yep.
So it has a bit of a special place. And it's also 80s. That one also falls in a range where like it's maybe arguably a little too edgy to be PG, but then it's not R enough and it doesn't really appeal to adults. So it lives in this kind of strange middle ground, maybe a bit like Gremlins. And then The Burbs, which I don't think you've seen.
No, I haven't seen The Burbs.
I love The Burbs. And that's Joe Dante as well. And it's very light on horror. It's far more comedy, but it's dark enough. It has that kind of like neighborhood, suburban feel. It's Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher. Actually, you should watch I think you'd appreciate The Burbs on some level.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it and I know it's out there. I didn't actually realize that it was that's the genre that it fell into. For some reason, I thought it was a weird drama.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can pass on that.
And then I would like show my kids like The Goonies and Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And I don't think those are horror, but they still have some darker scenes that are like creepy. I don't know. Would you call those kids horror?
It's been a long time since I saw Labyrinth, but Goonies, I don't think it's maybe horror adjacent or like right on the line.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. There's a bit of a caper element. There's a bit of comedy. So it is more like a family movie that there's something for everybody kind of thing.
And did you mention Dark Crystal at the beginning of that?
Yeah.
That one creeped me out as a kid. I've not shown my kids that one yet. And I think there might be, did they do a remake or a new version?
I actually have never seen the Dark Crystal. I didn't see it as a kid. And I didn't see Monster Squad as a kid. I saw that just a couple of years ago because I kept hearing about it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, because I really like the original Fright Night.
Yeah.
And I like the remake with Colin Farrell.
Yep.
It really good. Like I thought they did a bang up job on the new one, but the old one has a lot of charm for me.
How did Monster Squad land for you as an adult?
I liked it. I mean, I could see it for what it was, and it wasn't, it wasn't thoroughly gripping or engaging, but I liked being able to watch that and go, oh, I could see the appeal of this, 40 years ago.
So actually for our audience, as a favor, if you can think of a really good 80s kind of kids horror film, I'd be interested in maybe if there's some I'm missing, because it was pretty fun watching this with the kids. So if I could find more, but it seems like either you've got full horror.
Yeah.
It seems like I think Poltergeist would actually fit into the kids horror category potentially.
Potentially, but again, it's
edgier than Gremlins.
Yeah, it's edgier than this because even I saw that one as a fairly young, person, and there were definitely scenes in there that stuck with me for a while.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that's a little bit further down the continuum than this one, and that could scar some kids, I think.
Devil's Rejects could be kids horror, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say the I Spit on Your Grave sequels probably would be kid horrors.
We were kidding, of course.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So yeah, I don't know. There's actually not a whole lot to say about this one. It is very straightforward. It's a fun family horror, and there's not maybe a whole lot of family horror films. So
yeah, and I would say that these, if you're willing to let go of the idea that you're going to be scared or whatever, because there's lots of films that you could watch for that. I think just even watching something like this, if you're a horror film fan, just to have a bit of context for the genre over time, watching some of these big films of certain decades, I think is really important. If you're a fan, because whether you personally really enjoyed that film or not, you now have that little bit more context for the genre.
Actually, I'm shocked given how popular and I think how well these films did that there is not a Gremlins 3 or there's not been a Gremlins remake, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I assume that might be coming at some point because they seem to want to remake everything from that time period. But yeah, I'm a bit baffled that there's not. Maybe Joe Dante refused or.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think the people that are doing all the like Peter Pan and stuff, they should do a Gremlins remake because it'd be pretty nasty.
Yeah, that's true. I think because the practicals are so good and the puppetry was so good that people might be nervous about giving it CG, but then don't want to put in the effort to actually go through the effort of making it practical, because it'd be a lot of effort.
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about before, the CG probably wouldn't look that great, and the practicals, I don't know that there's the same expertise around any. There are like what's his name, Nicotera. I can't remember his first name. Anyway,
John Nicotero, or
I don't know if it's John. Anyway, there are a few. You know, Rick Baker's still around. There's still those people around, but I think a lot of that knowledge and a lot of that expertise was from an older generation that grew up with practical effects. And I think a lot of those people, except for the diehards that made a career, a lot of those people are gone now. And except for the people who made it in before CG, nobody has a call for that skill anymore. And it's unfortunate, I think.
It does seem like though maybe practicals are making a bit of a comeback.
Yeah, I think so.
I think people recognize that in the horror genre, just practical is so much better than
Absolutely.
CG. And this holds up really well in terms of practical effects. Like the Gremlins look really good.
They do. And even, like the gore and the kills and all that kind of stuff look really good. Like there's nothing that takes you out of it thinking, oh, and even the bar scene with all the stuff going on, I mean, I think that's all practical. You've got gremlins smoking, you've got, all these different things. I just think, it's so much more enjoyable when you're watching practicals as opposed to CG.
Yeah. I'd be on board actually for a Gremlins 3
at this
point.
Yeah.
If they did it right.
Well, that's always the thing, isn't it? If they did it right.
That's true. That's an important qualifier.
And it could be, I mean, I don't know anything about the rights to this property. Like maybe Spielberg, kind of protects this property.
He might.
Because I can't imagine there being an E.T. remake, right? Like they just wouldn't do it.
That's true.
And so this one, the same thing. Like I wonder if...
that's true. There hasn't maybe been many remakes of Spielberg's original stuff. So that might be intentional.
Yeah,
Sure,
I mean, there's been so many imitators of Jaws, but there's never been really a remake of the original.
Yeah, did you ever see Critters?
I'm familiar with it. I can't remember if I've seen it or not.
So I watched a lot of the Critters films, and I think that was meant to almost be like a spin-off of Gremlins. It's not as good, but it kind of scratches that itch if you want like the little creatures. So I think me and my siblings loved Gremlins, and so we watched a lot of the Critters films to kind of scratch that same itch.
And weird, they didn't make they haven't remade Schindler's List yet either. It's funny.
I'm sure it's coming at some point.
Yeah, sometime.
Saving Private Ryan.
Anyway, let's not name all the Spielberg films. But just to come back to that, you were talking about the challenges that they had with some of the puppets.
Yeah.
Super interesting to me because, of course, when you look at the lore of Jaws, Bruce the shark barely worked, and they had a lot of issues. But that, again, the practical effects still come off. And yes, when I watch it now, do I see the rubber shark? Sure. In some scenes, not in every scene, but in some scenes. Did I see it the first 15 times I watched? Like, did I see that shark as rubber? No. I saw like that was life-threatening, right? Even in my bathtub when I got home from the movie. So yeah, so I just think it's testament to the idea that practicals, while they might have all kinds of challenges behind the scenes, they come off.
It was worth the effort at the time. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I don't have anything left to say about this film except that I think you should go watch it.
Yeah. Do you think you would check out Gremlins 2 or not your bag?
Yeah, I think I could probably give it a pass, especially if it was like more leaning into the comedy than this one.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm guessing it's kind of the same sort of tropes.
Yeah.
And it's,
they do some fun things with it.
Yeah,
like
fair.
Spoilers for Gremlins 2.
Okay, we're in the spoiler section, but not for that movie. So we'll see
there's like a genetics lab where the Gremlins break in and they drink all these like potions that kind of make them mutate into different versions. So there's like a giant spider gremlin and a flying gremlin and a vegetable gremlin. And then this one drinks this like IQ potion. And so he's like very articulate and speaks in a very sophisticated manner. So it just has a lot more fun with.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So yeah, it's fun, but it's definitely more schlocky. Yeah.
So there's 2 films you can watch, Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that's it.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening and watching, and see you in the aisles.